Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, this is Cornelius Lindsay. You know, there's something about being stretched. There's another thing about being broken. I think that life is going to warrant that we are stretched. We may be stretched in our job, we may be stretched in our marriage, we may be stretched as a parent with our kids. We may be stretched as an entrepreneur and trying to do multiple things, trying to make sure you take care of the finances and you're taking care of the administrative work. You know, as a pastor, sometimes I feel stretched. As a business owner, sometimes I feel stretched. As a husband, sometimes I feel stretched. As a father, sometimes I feel stretched. And I think that a big part of life is trying to find a balance, because we need to find that balance and knowing that although we are going to be stretched, we have to make sure that we are not broken. Now, one of the things that we know is that a rubber band is made to be stretched. It's supposed to be stretched. That's why it's made. It's supposed to stretch. But the thing about the rubber band is if I stretch the rubber band too far, it breaks. That's because even though this was made to be stretched, when I stretch it too far, it breaks. A lot of us in our life, some of us don't mind being stretched. The problem is that we pile so much onto our lives and we apply so much pressure and we're being pulled in so many different directions that pretty soon the stretching becomes a breaking, and we start breaking. We start breaking in our marriage. We start breaking as parents. We start breaking as entrepreneurs. We start breaking in ministry. And I know many people who have been broken. I know, unfortunately, I've been around people and I've known people who committed suicide because they were stretched so much beyond their capacity that they finally broke. I know people who are stretched as entrepreneurs. I've been there myself. You're stretched as an entrepreneur because when the business is in the infant stage, you have to be the accountant, and you got to be the folder, and you gotta be the janitor, and you gotta be the cook. Like, you have to be almost everything in all the jobs and all the positions until you're able to afford some other people who can come and assist you. But you feel stretched in ministry. Sometimes you feel stretched. I know those people who feel like they want to be in every single ministry at the church. They're proficient in the marriage ministry. They're proficient in the singles ministry. They can run video. They can do this, they can preach, they can do all these amazing things. But the problem is they're stretched so thin that they're about to break. I know pastors who are stretched so thin. They're the worship leader. They're counting the money. They're trying to preach on Sundays. They're trying to sing the songs. They're trying to usher the people. They're trying to do all these different things, and now they're stretched so thin that sooner or later they're going to break. Now, the thing that we don't realize a lot of times is we don't realize that when we're being stretched, we don't actually realize, hey, we're getting ready to break. But we all have that moment in our lives where we realize, okay, the stretching is really starting to get to me. A lot of people will refer to it as burnout. I feel like I'm burnt out, man. You don't understand, Cornelius. I'm burnt out from life. I'm just tired. Know what you are is you're breaking, or you may be already broke or already broken. And like I said, the rubber band is created to be stretched. You're supposed to stretch it. But if you stretch this thing too much, it's going to break. And unfortunately, we got to get to a point where we're not continuing to break. Now, you may say, well, how in the world do I get to a point that I don't break? Glad you asked. The way that I believe that you get to this point, and the way that I've gotten there myself, is you learn your boundaries. You can't be afraid of telling certain people no. You can't be afraid of just telling some things no. You can't be afraid of turning some stuff down and saying, I just can't do that. You can't be afraid of going to the boss and saying, you know what, I know you want to give me this extra work, but I've done extra work before, but you know what, I feel like I'm at my breaking point. I know, you may hear the people out there, they're saying just work hard, do this. But the problem is that you're not emotionally healthy. You're doing all this work. Even if you get the promotion, you won't be able to enjoy it because the stress is going to wear down on your body. You have to get to a point where you say, you know what? If I take on more, I'm going to break. There has to be a point in your marriage when you say, you know what? We can't take on anything else in our marriage because we're about to break. I know people, and my wife and I have been there, where financially you're stretched so thin that you are about to break. And usually that means you're about to go deeper into debt. You know, it's about to get to a point where you can't even, it seems like the molehill, the financial molehill that you had to walk over. It was just a little bit of debt that pretty soon you kept being stretched so thin that now it's a mountain hill and now it's a big mountain. And you're trying to figure out, man, how do I get past this point? You have to realize your boundaries, and you have to realize to say, you know what, this is too much. I've gotten to a place in my life now where I know when too much is too much. Because although I don't mind being stretched, stretching is good. I want to be stretched because stretching can mean I can grow. I can grow into an area that I've never grown before. I can begin to see my boundaries. I can begin to see just how strong I am and just seeing just how weak I am. But now I'm getting to that point where although I'm stretched, I'm making sure that I don't break. And if you're saying, man, I've been broken before, I know what that looks like. I know what that feels like. I know the depression that weighs on you because you feel broken, because you feel insufficient, you feel inadequate, you feel like I didn't finish this, I didn't complete this, I didn't do that. And now all these things go through your mind because you broke when you were just trying to be stretched. And last thing I want to say is this. Don't let anybody try to convince you to take on more than what you're ready to handle. You know, when I was younger, I had somebody who told me, they said, you know, Cornelius, I think you should really apply for this position. And, you know, I told them, I said, I don't want to apply for that position. It was like, why don't you apply for the position? I think the position is perfect for you. And while I could have gotten the position, and while I could have been trained in the midst of the position, one of the things that I knew about myself at that time was that I knew I wasn't prepared to handle the amount of responsibility that the position required. Now, I say that to say this. Don't allow for other people to try to push you into a position that you yourself know you are not ready for. You know what God is directing for you to do. Don't get in this position where you're saying you're allowing for mama, daddy, sister them, cousin them, trying to convince you to take a position that you know you are not ready for. Because it may not happen this year, it may not happen next year, but you will be stretched to such a point that you feel like you're going to break. My hope is that you don't break anymore. My hope is that you learn your boundaries. My hope is that you learn how to say no. My hope is that you let your yes be yes and your no be no. That you don't allow people to talk you into doing something that you know you are not ready to handle and that you know you just can't do. I've married a lot of people, and thankfully, you know, we have a good rate with them because we sit down with them, we converse with them, we make sure that this is something that you're ready for. And then those couples that I don't believe are ready at that particular time, I'm not ashamed to tell them, I cannot marry you. It does not mean that you can't go get married. I've had couples who just go get married anyway, but I'm saying I can't. Because there's something that I see as a married man. I already know what marriage looks like. There's something I see here that says you're not ready for this. Because I know that if you get married now, you may be stretched. But at this point, because you are not emotionally healthy, because you're not mentally healthy, unfortunately, this stretching may lead to a breaking. And the breaking in marriage, it usually looks like divorce. The breaking with finances usually looks like bankruptcy. You know, those things are not the end all be all. It doesn't mean that you're worthless, useless, and God doesn't love you anymore, and now you're a failure in the world. It just means that you had a breaking point, and you met your breaking point. I'm just saying to you, I hope that you begin to realize what your breaking points are. Don't accept positions that you know you are not ready for, and you make sure that you let your yes be yes and your no be no. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as usual, make sure that you share this with your family and your friends. And also, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button at the top. God bless you.